Health and safety compliance, just in like most countries, there are some regulations about that, about what you're obliged to do. The first thing is the company doctor, for example, that you have to have an occupational health and safety service. There are a number of different things that you have to do. I'm going to go through them now quite quickly. And not having any one of these could lead to fines. The fines are not huge. We're talking 500 euros to 3,000 euros for each part, maybe. Where your biggest liability might be is if you haven't had a health and safety assessment done in your company, especially if it's a production environment or somewhere with machines, and there is an accident, then you could be held liable. And that's where it's going to really hit you and the costs are going to be high. So there are fines, but it's just in your own interest really to make sure you have fulfilled these obligations. So the first step is the occupational health and safety provider. Again, you can contact us about that if you like, or go with another party, but you do need to have a contract. Prevention officer, you need to appoint somebody from within your staff who will advise management and staff on health and safety issues. That doesn't have to be somebody who is ultimately responsible. It's not somebody who's ultimately responsible for health and safety, because that's still the company, that's still management. But they do need to advise, and this is usually the person who would then conduct the assessment. It could be any position. It doesn't have to be HR or office manager. It can be anybody. It can, even in smaller companies, be a manager, or the manager can take on that role. But it is necessary to document that this person is the appointed prevention officer, identify the tasks, identify how much time they have to fulfill them, and yeah, just get that in paper and communicate that to the rest of your staff so that if they see that there's a danger somewhere, that they know who to go to. That's basically it. Then you have the risk inventory and evaluation, which is kind of like the assessment. So that's that somebody would come to your office or your workplace. They would go through and they'd be like, oh, there's wires there that you can trip over, like we have here. That's not good. Your lighting is not sufficient for people. There needs to be more daylight. They look at work stress as well. So they would ask people in the company what the levels of stress like, you know, how much do you get to take your breaks and all these kind of things. So they will make an assessment, and then you would get an action list that comes out of that. In most cases, the RI&E will need to be validated by an authorised company. Again, we have partners that can do that for you. They can also conduct the entire thing, so that they would come around with their clipboard in your building, or you can fill it in yourself first, and then they would look at it from distance and they would validate it for you. The recommendation depends on your industry. Again, if you're in industry or production, I would definitely say have somebody come by and really see what the workplace is like and what policies and procedures you have in place, and really identify where your risks are. We'll come back to them in a minute anyway. What quite often comes out of the risk assessment is that you need to have first aiders, you need to have people that can evacuate the building in case of an emergency. These people need to be trained annually. Even if you only have one or two people in the office, theoretically you are responsible to have something in place for this. And you are obliged as an employer to offer the PME, the Preventative Medical Examination. And that's basically that you're responsible as an employer to evaluate what the pressure is, what the health risk is for your employees in doing their work. So it looks at work stress, but it also looks at, like, you know, tables, chairs, RSI, lighting, the whole package. And you can do that in various forms. You can sometimes just suffice with offering the employee every 3 to 5 years, by the way, is the guideline, by just offering them a list, a questionnaire to fill in, and then they get an automated report back saying, okay, these are your health risks. Actually, you're too heavy, you're not doing enough sport, you shouldn't be smoking really, and your work stress apparently is an issue, so you should go and discuss that with your manager or go to the company doctor, for example. That's the most basic version, but you can also add on to that physical examination with a nurse. They would do blood pressure, they do your glucose They do blood tests for your glucose. I think they do a urine test. So they do a number of tests, but there's several variants that you can choose from, depending on how many risks your work brings with it.